We're now going to make our way out to Portage La Prairie and hear from Major Brenda Hammond, the Corps Officer of Portage La Prairie and the Food Bank.
Hello. So the Salvation Army in Portage, one of our big responsibilities is the food bank. And we are the main food bank for Portage. They have about 13,000 folk living in Portage. And poverty in Portage La Prairie is very high. It's 26.8%, and around 15 point something for Winnipeg, and 18 point something for Brandon. So once COVID hit, that really complicated things. Prior to COVID, the folk would come in and we served coffee and snack, and there was a cafe type fellowship that took place while they got their hamper. But once COVID hit, then they had to be outside. We put X's on the pavement and separated everybody. And that personal piece was gone. And before COVID, the folk could select what their family liked best. So we would set things up so that, you know, does your family like French fries, or does your family prefer, you know, different kinds of maybe chunky peanut butter versus regular peanut butter. But after COVID, everything had to be pre-packed. So we've lost that personal piece. So if mom is a baker, for instance, then we would have all the baking supplies there so she could select what she needs most. And now, especially now during COVID, where all their needs have changed so much, now is when they really need that specific kind of care. But we're just not able to do that because they're outside. The clients, what I try to do is stay outside in a safe space, because the clients are very, very anxious. Even maybe 8-10 weeks after the pandemic, they were still glazed over and very scared and clearly not getting good information, very fearful. And they're coming to food bank only because they absolutely have to come and they need food, but afraid that they're going to get sick. And then as COVID developed more, a section of those folk actually just started to act like there was no COVID. And that created all kinds of issues around keeping folks safe. We just finished food bank today for our regular clients, and I would say I probably talked about social distancing and asking them to go back and stand on the X's maybe 8 times, because they just stand too close to one another, and, you know, very difficult to keep everybody safe when some folks are pretending like it's not an issue and that other folk are really afraid. I think we served 45 families today, just to give you a number. That's down from before COVID, because the Indigenous communities are actually being funded separately through the federal government. But alongside of that, we have a lot of families that have never ever been to a food bank before, and they are in need, they're struggling. And so we have some brand new people coming in with all kinds of needs. We, the rest of the week, we do kind of a one-on-one thing, but for our regular clients, we try to serve them on Wednesday mornings. I would like to report that the Mccain Foundation gave us $60,000 to use to help us with COVID. And we have been using that money quite nicely. We're giving gift cards because the clients' needs have all changed. So what was a regular hamper isn't going to work now, especially if they're home or, you know, mom and dad are both laid off or whatever's happening, and the kids were home from school. So we were continuing to give $25 to a single and $50 to a medium, which is 2 to 4 people, and $75 to a large family, as well as extras. And there's lots and lots of extras that we're able to give. So they're getting their regular hamper, the extras they normally get, and then we're giving them a gift card. We are determined to support them because often the frontline people fall through the cracks, and especially during a crisis, then things just fall apart for them and nobody knows. So far we're doing okay, and we are anticipating continuing to support them. They get a hamper every 6 weeks, and then they can come once in between the 6 weeks for extras, which is all kinds of good stuff. Let's see, some of the issues. Well, we had a whole bunch of people who would pile into one car and come in, and each person represented a family. Well, now, of course, only one person can be in a vehicle. So there's all kinds of transportation issues around getting in and then getting home. A lot of folk call a cab, and today we had a great experience where we called a client a cab, and the cab that arrived is somebody who was new to Canada about a year and a half ago, and they came to Food Bank regularly, and now they've started this little business of they have their own vehicle used as a taxi. So the taxi that arrived was the client that no longer attends Food Bank because they're doing okay. And while she was here picking up the client from Food Bank, she actually asked us which day would be the best day to bring in vegetables from her garden for the food bank. And so, you know, it's a great thing when you see things come full circle, and it's very encouraging. So let's see. Collective kitchens. We have this project that we've been working on called Collective Kitchens. We were just ready to start when COVID began, where we put 5 people in a kitchen, and they actually cook 5 meals and then take the food home to their families. So each person in the kitchen represents a family. So they're usually cooking for about 20 people. And we were just ready to start, and then COVID hit. So we are actually about to try again, to start again. We're hoping to have, you know, maybe 3 kitchens by the end of the year. And for a community this size, we could easily do 13 kitchens. So that would be folk who come to Food Bank that will transfer them into a program where they're going to learn better cooking skills and take food home to their families. It costs them a little bit, and it costs us, and they also we have a food cupboard. So they're gaining great skills, learning how to go through flyers. And we're very excited, you know, the old adage of giving them fish versus teaching them to fish. And I ran this program a long time ago, and it was very, very successful, and it just was wonderful. And we're really, really looking forward to moving forward, even though we're in COVID, but moving forward anyway. We're hoping to, we figured out we can put 3 people in a kitchen. So it'll be a modified version. We can have 3 people in the kitchen while keeping everybody 6 feet apart and still cooking. Questions?
Well, thank you for leading into that, Brenda. As a matter of fact, we do have a couple questions here for you today, and wondering what has been the biggest challenge to operating the food bank during this time?
I think the specific, when their needs are the highest, then they're actually outside the building. So private one-on-one conversations are very, very difficult. We just have to figure out a different way. So things they shared with us prior to COVID, you know, prayer concerns. We always had a prayer box, and we would get maybe 6 or 8 prayers every week in the prayer box. And so that personal touch is not there. And sometimes now I find an issue has been a big issue for a long time, and I'm only just discovering it. And so that's the biggest issue, is some folks don't speak up, of course, especially new people to the system. And that makes it hard. They're suffering. Some people, especially single people, are very, very having a very rough time.
So another question for you here, thank you for answering that one, is what are some of the successes of the food bank during this pandemic?
Our volunteers are an amazing. Of course, anybody with any health concerns couldn't come, and but just we have a core group of 7 volunteers that they're just come every single Wednesday, and we've worked together as a team. We wouldn't actually have new people come in right now. We have to figure out how to work 6 feet apart and be a team. And yet at the same time, most of our volunteers are in their 70s, so they are in the high risk group. But we've figured out, so the volunteers, they know the clients, and they know which ones are vegetarians and which ones has a milk allergy, and just to really serve the clients best. I would say that would be our biggest success story, along with all the little things that it's a great reward when we're so needed, and yet at the same time easy to overlook the folk at the food bank.
Great. Thank you so much, Major, for all your help in Portage, meeting the increased demands and challenges on that food bank. You're doing great work out there, you and your team.